Okay, I'm going to flip it so that those of us that are on paper notes, if you want to look at my screen on your Chromebook, you can. Remember, you can close off that. Can't close the tab, but you can move off that tab, right? If you're on digital. Okay. So we're learning. And if I forget to do that, those of us that are on paper, remind me, okay? Because sometimes I'll forget. Okay. Let's see. Avery, can you read us the essential question? Perfect. And then Anthony, can you read us the I can statement? Perfect. So remember, rationals, there's another word for fraction. All right. So our expression is going to have a numerator and a denominator with some algebra stuff in it, right? Polynomials, binomials, trinomials, monomials. Okay. All we did yesterday was identify how to find the least common denominator of the fraction. Okay. Much like we did when we were in elementary school, though we took an algebraic approach to it because we're not just having a number denominator. Okay. So we are ready to start adding and subtracting. So we're going to go all the way down to where it says explain 3. Okay. So when we are adding and subtracting rational expressions is similar to adding and subtracting fractions. All right. But I'm not going to set up the common denominator kind of the way I do with fractions. I'm going to set it up the way we talked about yesterday and looking for the things that match and the things that don't match. Okay. So the instructions say add or subtract. We're not going to worry about excluded values. I'm going to deal with that next week. Okay. So we're just going to worry about getting it added and subtracted. Next week, we learn how to solve rationals. So then we'll deal with the excluded value piece. Okay. All right. So I want to factor each denominator is where I'm going to start. That's what our instructions told us yesterday. I know this can't be factored, but what does squared mean? How many times am I supposed to write it? Twice, right? Okay. And this week, in calculus this week, we've been doing this write it twice concept a lot. So it's an algebra step that keeps coming up. So I know that I would write that twice. There's technically 2 X's there. Okay. All right. And I'm being really sneaky about this. I'm writing it right underneath. I'm being sloppy. Okay. I really should write the whole thing. Okay. All right. What kind of factoring do I have in this second denominator? Greatest common factor. What is the greatest common factor? X. Good. So I'm pulling an X out. So remember, we're dividing both of those terms by X. So what's X squared divided by X? Just X left behind. Remember, you're going to subtract those exponents when you divide. Okay, so we're kind of doing that in our head rather than writing it out. All right, what's X divided by X? It's 1. If you are the person that needs to kind of do this over to the side, so you see it, that's okay. All right. Okay. So now we're going to get out our red and our blue, right? We're going to circle in blue what matches, just like we did yesterday. So what matches between the 2 denominators? One of the X's, right? Remember, for matching, I have to pick one out of each denominator. Okay. Instead of writing LCD like we did yesterday, we're just going to write that as in the denominator of our fraction on the next line. So I'm going to be adding those expressions together. I'm going to write a big fraction bar. Okay. And underneath it, I'm going to write an X because I get to write the whatever I circled 1 time. All right. That's the only thing that matches. So I'm going to underline everything else in red. And this is going to make more sense why we're doing that second piece here in just a second. All right, and I get to write everything in red for my LCD. So I've got times X plus 1. Okay. I just realized I didn't teach you something yet, and we're going to learn it right now. Because I skipped a unit. I skipped over a unit. So it's okay. We'll figure it out right now. The next thing I'm going to do, okay, is in order to set up when we added fractions, we usually multiply by the numerator by something, right? So I'm going to multiply by what's missing in the common denominator, Okay, so let's write that off to the side. Okay, so multiply numerator by what it's missing from the LCD. What we're really doing is making equivalent fractions. That's the actual, we're just renaming it a different way, okay? So it's a math process we've done since 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. We're just doing it with algebra now. Okay. So I am going to compare. Okay, we ready? Got that all written? Because I want to make sure you guys are all paying attention. Because the next step, I'm going to have to throw some algebra that I haven't taught yet. Okay, so I am comparing this denominator to that denominator. Okay, do you see how I have a blue and a red? Here I have got blue, red, red. Does that make sense? So what's missing from this denominator that's in this common denominator? I have an X, a blue X, a red X. What's missing? X plus 1, right? I don't have this piece in there, in that just that piece of the denominator, in that first term. Does that make sense? So what I need to do is I need to multiply this by the missing X plus 1. Okay, I'm going to teach you a mini lesson right now. Okay, we have never multiplied a binomial times a trinomial before, have we? We've done this, like 2x plus, don't write this down. We've done that. What do we have to do when we see that? That's a FOIL, right? What FOIL ultimately does is it takes us and multiplies every term here, right, by every term in this one. So that's the goal, is we have to multiply all these terms by all those terms. Okay, so I'm going to show you a technique, which I would have shown you in the unit I skipped. So we're going to write it off to this right side here. Okay, so we're going to set up a box. Make sure your box is big enough to write in. It's not a big deal. It'll make sense pretty quick, I think. I don't think any of the ones in the homework had this, because I made up all the homework problems and none of them had this particular thing, and I shouldn't have picked this example. So, all right. You see how I have a trinomial times a binomial? So 3 terms times 2 terms. So notice my box is 3 terms times 2 terms. So instead of using the box to factor, we're going to use the box to basically FOIL. Okay, we're going to use it to multiply. So I'm going to put my 2 terms down the side, so x plus 1. And then my 3 terms across the top. X squared plus 4x plus 2. All right. Remember I taught you that the box is like a multiplication table. We've been undoing the multiplication. Now we're going to actually do the multiplication. So we've been doing dividing with it. We're going to do it with multiplying now. So I do x times x squared gets me what? X cubed. Good. It's not a big deal. We've done that a whole bunch of times, right? This is just adding this silly box thing to it. All right, x times 4x is what? And you see how it goes? It goes in the square that they match up to, right? X times 2 is perfect. I'll let you catch up. All right, x squared times 1 is good. 1 times 4x is good. And 1 times 2 is 2. Okay. Now, about 90 to 95% of the time, this trick works. See the diagonals? Those are what we call like terms. You know, we combine like terms, right? We've been doing that since probably before Algebra 1, okay? There are times when that doesn't work, all right? And you have to actually look in other places in the box. But about 90-95% of the time, the diagonals are like terms. Sometimes it's the diagonals going the other direction, okay? So I know that what I highlighted in yellow, I will add together. The ones I didn't highlight, we're just going to write down. So this is going to be x cubed. What's 1x squared plus 4x squared? 5x squared. Good. What's 4x plus 2x? 6x. Good. And then just plus 2 at the end. I'll let you catch up and then I'm going to explain what just happened. Okay. Okay. So what we just did was we turned this fraction right here, okay, into a new fraction that's equivalent where we multiplied by this x plus 1 on technically the top and the bottom, right? Because that's what created our least common denominator, okay? I'm going to put a plus sign in between because that's what the operation is right there, okay? Now we're going to do the same thing here. It's going to be a little bit simpler because I've got a monomial numerator, okay? So I'm going to look. I'm comparing this denominator to that entire denominator. So I've got a blue x and a red x plus 1. What's missing from here? Just a red x, right? So I'm going to multiply by the red x. Okay, I'm going to use a purple color. So when I multiply x squared times x, what do I get? X cubed. Good. And that's it this time, right? I don't have this huge complicated other algebra junk to mess with. Okay. Now I'm just going to combine like terms in my numerator. Okay, so what is the only thing that has like terms? X cubed, right? This is the only guy that has the same thing. So x cubed, 1x cubed plus 1x cubed is what? Good, 2x cubed. Everything else is just going to get written the way it was before because there's nobody who's a like term. And then the denominator is, the only thing I could do with the denominator that I might do differently is I might combine these guys back together, but I would not distribute in any way. So x times x, I'd probably put back to x squared and then x plus 1. And that's it. We're going to go slow because they're going to be a little bit uglier. Okay, this is why I did multiply, divide before the end of the semester and not add and subtract before the end of the semester. Okay. Okay. The next one's going to be ugly too. Okay, we're going to practice this whole thing. It's going to actually get easier as we do the lesson rather than harder, I think. Okay. Next one's going to be similar to what we just did there. Okay. All right, so first step is let's do this factoring thing. Okay. So I'm looking at this first denominator. What type of factoring do we have? What's the first thing we always look for? GCF. Is there a GCF? What is it? X. So I'm pulling an X out. So we've got X minus 5. Okay. What does the squared mean to do? Write it twice. We're going to write it twice. Okay. Then I'm going to draw myself a nice new fraction bar. Really what I'm doing is I'm going to make two equivalent fractions for this, but I'm making them over one common denominator. Okay. So I'm just taking a little bit of a shortcut. All right. Now I'm going to circle in blue what matches. What am I going to be circling? An X in each one. Good. So we've got an X in each one. All right. I underline in red everything that's left. So I have X times X minus 5. Okay. We're going to start with the easier one this time, it looks like. So I'm looking at this denominator because I'm going to try to make an equivalent fraction out of this to my new denominator. Okay. So I'm comparing these two denominators. What's missing from this denominator here that's in the common denominator? Did everybody see the red X? So that means I'm going to take this and I'm going to multiply it by the red X. Okay. So what is 2x squared times x? 2x cubed. Good. Okay. Let's take a look at this back piece now. So I'm looking at this denominator and comparing it to my common denominator. The arrows are not necessary. I'm just trying to point things out to you, okay? So I have a blue X and a red X. So what's missing? X minus 5. Good. A few of us woke up there, so that's good. Now, I need to be a little bit careful. Did you notice the operation on this first one was addition? What's my operation here? Subtraction. What that really means is I have parentheses there. So what does that mean I'm going to have to do with that negative sign? Distribute. So I'm going to do something that's going to help us now, and it's going to seem a little bit weird, okay? If I'm distributing, doesn't that mean I just swap all the signs? Okay, so I'm going to swap all of these signs. I'm going to make that one a minus, and this one a plus, and then I'm going to swap that to a plus. Because when I go do my big multiplication thing, now all my signs are correct, and I don't have to worry about it being a subtraction problem. Okay? All right. We're going to get out this big old box again and I know I have to do that because I've got a binomial times a trinomial. Okay? All right. I'm going to help us you set it up, and then I'm going to have you do the multiplication step on your own to see if you've got that, okay? So my trinomial across the top, which is negative x squared minus 3x plus 4. Down the side, and watch what I do with the negative sign down the side. I'm going to make sure the negative is in front of my 5 so that I don't mess up my signs. Okay? All right, I want you to try the box, since that's kind of a new intermediate step here. Everybody try it. Take your headphones off here. Be about 20 more seconds on your own. Okay, I want you to take a minute and compare that part with your table partner. Okay, if you weren't here yesterday, make sure you know your table partner's name. Okay, all right, so take a minute. Everybody's talking about it. Compare your answers. If you didn't understand something, now's the time to ask your table partner or somebody at your table. Okay. Yeah. Totally haven't gotten one. Still need to go get my box out of the cabinet. There you go. Yeah. Okay, let's try this together, see if we made sure we're all on the same page, okay? So help me out. What's x times negative x squared? I heard negative x cubed. Okay. Everybody help me. X times negative 3x. Good. Okay. What's x times 4? Everybody should be able to do that one, right? Okay. Negative 5 times negative x squared. Good. Negative 5 times negative 3x. And negative 5 times 4. Perfect. And then we're going to do our little combine like term things now. If you didn't do this part, that's okay. We're going to combine like terms and we're going to rewrite it over here. And the good news is we've already taken care of the weird sign stuff with the subtract. Okay. So we've got negative x cubed. What's 5x squared and negative 3x squared? 2x squared, right? Okay, what is 15x and positive 4x? Good. And then we just minus 20, had no friends, just write them down. Okay, last thing I need to do is just do some combining like terms in my numerator. The denominator we're not going to mess with. Okay, the denominator's kind of done. All right, so what's the only thing I'm going to combine together this time? I heard x cubed, right? So what is 2x cubed minus x cubed? Just x cubed. And everything else is going to be the same, right? As it was before. So 2x squared plus 19x minus 20. And then the only thing I might do again in my denominator is the x times x would be x squared and then x minus 5. You don't have to do that. I would take x times x on your test if that came, or the quiz if that came up. Okay. All right, the good news is the rest of them are going to be easier than that. Because they're not going to have the silly box, I don't think. I think I planned them to not have the box on the rest of them. I didn't realize the box was there. I wasn't careful in my first two examples. But you learned extra something that we're not going to now have to do a whole lesson on. Which that was nice. That saved us some time. All right, we'll see how many more we can get through. Okay. All right, our denominator factoring is going to get a little bit more exciting. It's not just going to be greatest common factor anymore. Okay, so first denominator, do I need to do anything to it? Ooh, I got lucky, didn't I? It's just an x minus 6. Cool. All right, second denominator, what am I going to have to do to factor it? Magic x. So I'm going to do that work kind of off to the side. The magic x isn't the problem anymore. It's now the scratch work, right? Oh, I need to think about this. Okay, so what two numbers multiply to negative 18 and add to negative 3? Negative 6 and 3. So I'm going to go x minus 6 times x plus 3. The majority of the time, there should be something that matches. Okay? So if you're not getting something matching, either Mrs. Ballard really messed up on the quiz, okay, or there's something you have done wrong. So I would like double and triple check it. If there's nothing that matches, I should be getting up like 500 hands during the test, okay? So what matches? So I'm going to circle that. How many times do I get to write it? Good, once. So I write x minus 6. Okay, and then I underline everything that's left, which is only the x plus 3, and I write all of that down. Okay, we're going to do our compare the denominators thing again. Okay, so I'm going to compare this denominator to my new least common denominator so I can create equivalent fractions. So what's missing? It's really obvious, isn't it? Because we did that nice color coding, it's the x plus 3 is missing. All right, it's not super pretty, but it's better than the 2 by 3, right? Because now I've got a binomial times a binomial. What algebra do I need to do? Do you need a tissue, Liam? There you go. All right, so we're going to FOIL. So we've got 2x times x is what? 2x squared. Good. Remember multiplying, not adding. Okay. All right, outsides would be 2x times 3 is what? Good, 6x. Insides would be 7 times x, which is 7x. And then 7 times 3 for the lasts, 21. Good. When you are writing out your work for this, leave extra gaps of space. Does that make sense? Because we know we're going to have to do this little multiplying thing. So I would leave like a big gap of space in here. Okay. I luckily made the problem big enough for me to be able to write it in there. Okay. But if I'm writing it out by hand, I would leave myself some extras. It seems weird, but it's to help you make sure you can get all that work in there. Okay. Let's look at the next one. Check this out. Compare this denominator to the least common denominator. What do you notice? They're the same. Woo! You know what that means? I don't have to do anything to this. I just get to write this down, but I need to also make sure I put that minus sign. This seems really easy now, right? Compared to what we just did on the first two. Okay. So all we're doing is combining like terms, right? So what are my like terms this time? All the x's, right? But look at, there's 3 of them this time. So 6x, 7x, and negative x ends up being what? 12x. I'm going to put that in the middle. I know it's kind of weird that I did that first, but, and then everything else is the same, right? 2x squared, 21, and then our denominator, do not FOIL it. Leave it in factored form. It seems weird that we really only did 2 lines of work. We did a lot more than that, right? Because we had factoring, we had multiplying, we had foiling. We had all of those little Algebra 1 processes that we've been kind of practicing on the side all year, all in one problem. Okay, and that's what makes it, it's not that it's hard, it's really tedious. We've got a lot of processes to think about at one time. Okay. All right, we still have 10 minutes. We're going to keep going, see if we can do a couple more. Okay. You should take a crack at you do not want to not do the homework, right? You want to take a crack at this weekend. Okay. Okay. Let's take a look at D here. Let's see what else I've got. Yeah, we'll do, let's at least start D together. We'll maybe give you a chance to try part of it on your own. Okay. Actually, you know what? Do the factoring denominators right now and create your LCD. Okay, so do that piece. Don't go further than that. Find just your least common denominator on your own. Okay, so magic X. Oops, I shouldn't have told you that, right? Magic X, find your LCD. She didn't get the what? See, you must not have grabbed both pages yesterday. When you grab pages, make sure you grab the crisscross, okay? Don't be scared to ask. Be brave. Okay, let's check our LCD. What kind of factoring did we have to do in that second denominator? Good. 2 numbers that multiplied to 25 and added to negative 10. Good. So we've got x minus 5 times x minus 5. Doesn't it feel good to be confident about that? It feels good to be right all the time on those, right? That's why we work so hard on them first semester. All right. What did you circle that matched? And you get only one of them in that second one, right? If you have one in the first one, you only get to grab one out of the second one. How many times do I write that? Once. Okay, and then I underline and read everything else that's left, and I get to write all of that down. Okay. Let's take a look at the common denominators now. Okay, so this is the next step. We're going to kind of do it together. Okay, so look at this denominator and compare it to this denominator. What's missing? X minus 5. So I've got to multiply this one by the missing x minus 5. Okay, everybody do that. You're doing the FOIL on your own. You can do it. Okay, I want you to check it with your table partner really quick. Everybody have a quick conversation. Okay, let's talk about it together. So what's 2x times x? Good. 2x times negative 5. Good. 7 times x. Good. And then 7 times negative 5. Good. All right. Let's do our other little comparison now, right? So I'm going to compare this denominator to this denominator. What do we notice? They're the same. So do I need to multiply anything? No, it's already has the fraction denominator, but we need to watch that minus sign. Okay. I probably gave you more subtract ones than add because the add ones are easier than the subtract. So subtract, you have that sign issue we always have to deal with. Okay. All right. I know if you can do a subtract, you can do an add. Okay. All right. We got to do some like term combining. Okay. So do I need to do anything with the 2x squared? No friends. Write him down. All right. What about the next one? Who's negative 10x go with? 7x. So what do we end up with? Negative 3x. All right. And then let's see. Who goes with negative 35? Negative 5. And then what do we get there? Negative 40. And then my denominator is x minus 5. If you wanted to be super cool at this point, you could write that denominator as that. Okay. You don't have to. I'm not going to require it. Technically, I should look at my numerator and see if it factors. It probably isn't going to. Okay. I'm not going to try to make it harder on you. Okay. So, all right. Hopefully this is better than the first two. Okay. This is going to be more, I'm not going to put these two on the quiz. Okay. This is a good, nice to know. Like we're really, really doing superstar work. That's like above and beyond right now. Right. I want to make sure you guys can do these like these last two. Okay. All right. How do we have time? We have time for one more. Let's get one more in. Okay. Look at it's getting easier. It's only 2 terms now. All right. Isn't that exciting? Okay. It's always good when the lesson gets easier as we go instead of we started hard and went easier. All right. What kind of factoring is this first denominator? Woo, the favorite one, right? It should be the favorite one because it goes really super fast, right? What's square root of x squared? X squared to 9. Make 1a and 1a. Perfect. Okay. All right, we got to circle what matches in blue. What matches in blue? X plus 3. You're going to notice when we take the quiz and we take it in Otis, remember you can change the color of your pen. You can use the red and blue thing in your quiz, okay? If it totally helps you to have those colors, do it, okay? All right, I'm going to underline the red, what's left over, and I've got the red and the blue, okay? Okay, let's take a look. We're going to compare this denominator to our least common denominator. What do you notice? They're the same, right? So do I need to do anything to this fraction? No, I'm just going to write the 3. Okay. Compare this denominator to the least common denominator. What's missing? X minus 3. So I'm going to multiply by x minus 3. Look at how nice that is. Now it's not even FOIL. What am I doing? I get to distribute. Boy, I really had this lesson backwards, didn't I? Okay. It's all right. Makes us feel good because we feel really smart now, right? All right, and watch. If there's a minus here, I would want to distribute a minus in. It's a plus, so I'm just getting to distribute in a 2. So 2x minus what? Minus 6. Good. All right, we're going to do some combining like terms. So let's see. Typically, you want to start with your variables because it's not quite in order. So I'm going to keep the 2x up front. We're going to go 3 minus 6 is what? Negative 3. And then your denominator just stays the way it is. Do not try to FOIL it back out. Otis will mark it wrong. Okay. I don't know. There's only a couple problems left on this. We will finish these couple problems up on Monday, but that doesn't mean don't try the homework. You need to go home and you need to try this on your own. You want that first quiz grade to be really good, okay? It is an Otis assignment. There's only 5 problems. Do 3 on Saturday and 2 on Sunday, and then we'll come back in on Monday and make sure you've really got it at the end of the notes, okay?